Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Okay. This says that Randy Thomas from Lake Country Church, Fort Worth, is giving the invocation, but that's not right.
Wesley told him in Christ Chapter.
That's right, because we met on so I was going to say, I'm looking at this and that don't work. So come on forward.
I think that was last week.
Well, it probably was. Somebody who put it in a red folder will figure it out.
Thank you, Judge Whitley, members of the court. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for your provision in our lives. I thank you that you are so gracious and faithful to us each and every day, Lord. As we are gathered together at this meeting, I ask that you give Judge Whitley and the members of this court great wisdom, discernment, and understanding. Guide them as they seek to make decisions that benefit the residents of Tarrant County. Bless this meeting, Father, and bless the discussions that will take place, that they may be productive and fruitful. Dear Lord, I also ask you to bless the members of this court. Please give them great joy as they pour out their time and energy to serve the county. Father, may you also watch over their families and protect them. Lord, guard their marriages, that their homes might be places of peace and contentment. And when they return home this evening, I pray they can rest well, knowing that they serve their county faithfully. Thank you for your goodness to us, Lord. We submit these things to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks. Thanks, Wes, for coming out. Thank you. Agenda announcements. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements relating to the agenda this morning. The first is under the County Administrator's Office, item 8A4. This is a tax abatement and the modification of the not a tax abatement, but a tax increment finance. And we made one minor correction in coordination with the city of Arlington, and so that correction has been made. And I think Ms. McMillan will talk a little bit about that when she gets up here. Members of the Court, also as it relates to the court meetings in July, we are not going to have court on July 4th or July 25th. And so we'll make sure that all the departments are notified. In fact, they've already been notified on this, so that I believe we'll have two court meetings in July and get the work done during those two meetings.
June 27th, too, right?
We do have court June 27th.
We do? Okay.
Yes. Then finally, the Citizens Blue Ribbon Committee is meeting this afternoon at 2:30. They're meeting in 504C. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of June the 13th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations, or a proclamation and a couple of certificates and congratulatory resolutions to do today. The first is Tim McKinney. Come on down. Tim is getting ready to retire and has done a tremendous amount of work for Tarrant County for a long time. And we appreciate that very much, and so I'm going to read this proclamation into the record. Whereas after a successful 36-year banking career, Tim McKinney became president and CEO of the United Way of Tarrant County in November 2007. And whereas he was committed to the mission of the United Way of Tarrant County, first as an allocations committee volunteer, then as a board member from 98 to 2007. And whereas Tim McKinney has a lengthy record of local community service that includes board service advancing the missions of healthcare, business, fine arts, education, employment, civic groups, and faith-based organizations. And whereas in partnership with Lockheed Martin and Bell Helicopter, a new Veterans Fund was established in 2013, which has dispersed over $1,427,896. So I guess we're over by just a few pennies. For the service that help returning veterans. And whereas Tim McKinney also established the Colonel Social Innovation Fund last year to enable a cross-section of people, organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, and entrepreneurs to address current and new social issues in innovative ways. And whereas among other accomplishments, he helped establish the James L. West Presbyterian Special Care Center, chairing the center task force in 1991, becoming chair of the founding board of directors in 1992, and until recently served on the James L. West Foundation board, and where his philanthropic achievements testify to Tim's leadership at the helm of United Way and his high regard in the community. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim June the 22nd, 2017 as Tim McKinney Day in Tarrant County. And further, we congratulate Tim on the occasion of his retirement from the United Way of Tarrant County and thank him for his lifetime of service and dedication, which has enhanced the quality of life for the citizens of Tarrant County. In witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 20th day of June 2017. Move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Tim and I go back to the early 1980s when he was in the banking business and was willing to loan to a starting CPA firm a little bit of money. And so we've gone back for a long time, and I really appreciate everything you've done for the community, both in your banking life as well as in the United Way, and I know that you've always done this with the best interest of Tarrant County, and for that we're very, very grateful. So thank you very much. Now wait a minute, she's got three, she's got to pay.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a great honor, and I really appreciate Judge Whitley and all four of you for doing this. And I appreciate the support that all of you have given to the United Way and to me personally. You know, the county has really upped the ante over the last 4 or 5 years, and it really is appreciated. I've enjoyed what I've been doing over the last 10 years. I think I'm very proud of what we have accomplished, and that's about all I'm going to say. I really do appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Now, before y'all head out, I do this because I know TD has had a little bit of naval background. We are going to close today's meeting in honor or in memory of the 7 sailors that were lost on the USS Fitzgerald this past week. And so those will close in memory of Alexander Douglas, 25 from Fallbrook, California, Noah Hernandez, 26 from Weslaco, Texas, Nocturne Hong, 25 from Hartford, Connecticut, Xavier Martin, 24 from Hillthorpe, Maryland, Gary Ream Jr., 37 from Ellery, Ohio, Kyle Rigsby, 19 from Polaire, Virginia, and Carlos Sabarian, 23 from Chula Vista, California. And it was a sad week. These young men answered the call of their country. They served in the military, and, you know, we think that it's one of those things that we just sometimes take for granted, that nothing will happen, and sometimes things do happen, and they're there to serve us, and so we will close court today in memory of these fallen soldiers. So, thank y'all for coming out today. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have some folks here today.
I do. I've got some distinguished young guests from the Fort Worth Independent School District's Vital Link program. They're spending a week at Linebarger law firm, and it has become traditional that during that week they come and take a look at county government. I want to thank their wrangler for the day, Corey Fickus, for bringing them by. I had a chance to chat with them earlier, and they are exceptionally bright young people, and we may even get a CPA out of the bunch.
I did my best to encourage.
The Vital Link program gives kids experience in the private sector, providing that vital link between what they learn in the classroom and what goes on in the real world. We wish these kids luck. We expect to see them again as they get to be grown and growner. We look forward to the contributions that each will make to the world in which we live. I'm going to ask you all to rise. And as I call your name, please join me at the podium. Kathy, yes, come here. Jed Obian. Thank you, Jed. All right. Come on, come back around here. Riley Hoyler. Riley wants to be famous. Haley Lozano. Amy Martinez. Kenzie McCormick. Kenzie's not here. Tristan Meltzer. Tristan. Deborah Morales. Angel Perez. On head. Abigail Rodriguez. Jeremy Rosnowski.
You better warn that flash out.
I gather Jorge Salinas is not here. Stephanie Webb. Stephanie is my singer.
Just yelling at me right now.
Yell back.
He's got one more in her. You may have to cut back to 2.
Thank you. And Hunter Wells. Hunter? That's good enough. Give these young people a round of applause.
Okay, one more smile. One more smile.
GK, you may want to move the podium.
Let me get in here.
She's letting that flash charge behind them there, so wait for the flash in there. Don't move yet.
All right, thank you.
We done wore that thing out. Commissioner, if I could get a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion second to receive and file the presentations. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have a resolution.
Congratulatory resolution for Nan Stanford, who's retiring as the Saginaw City Manager. It's for ratification only. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mangus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have 4 additional items to bring to the court this morning. The first is an action to receive and file the annual independent financial audit for Tarrant County for the fiscal year which ends September 30th, 2016. Mr. Terry Kyle from Deloitte Touche is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Terry Kyle with Deloitte & Touche, here to report on the results of our audit for the year ended September 30, 2016. Over the last several months, we've issued several reports on a variety of financial statements and information. First, the Juvenile Justice Department, financial statements, and then a report to management at the end of that as well on the results of that audit. There was an unmodified or clean opinion on those financial statements. Then the financial statements of the county itself, the comprehensive annual financial report. Our opinion on that is also an unmodified opinion. There were no real changes in that report this year. One change that Governmental Accounting Standards Board, GASB, required this year related to disclosure around investments, a minor disclosure change. Otherwise, those financials are very similar to what they've been in the past. And at the same time, also results a governance letter related to that audit that tells you we received full cooperation from management. We're able to complete our audit appropriately, remain independent throughout the audit, and had no significant audit adjustments or changes during the audit to be required. And then finally, the single audit reports, the federal single audit and the state single audit. Those have to be broken into two separate bodies of work, but they're bound together into one report, and those were just now issued. And that report is unmodified, has some findings, some minor findings related to some of the grant programs, but the county's included a corrective action plan related to those findings. Overall, the audit went well this year. We received full cooperation from management. We had full access to the books and records. Your financial group does a good job on preparing the information for us, and we appreciate their cooperation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the reports or the audit in general.
Terry, you know the routine.
Absolutely.
You require us to, these are supposed to be our financial statements, but you require us to record a liability for what is called OPEB.
Correct.
And that says that we have an obligation into the future for providing health benefits to our retirees as well as to our both pre and post Medicare. And I, for one, and I think the court disagrees that that is a liability, because on any given Tuesday we could choose not to reimburse, and that's what it is. We're required by the state to offer it. We are not required by the state to reimburse or to supplement a portion of that fee, and yet you require us to do that because we have chosen to do it in the past, but there is no guarantee that we have to do it in the future. Unlike our pension, where we are required to do that for as long as an employee is active with us. So, attorneys have told us that we do not, that is not an obligation that we have past any given Tuesday, but still the accounting profession in GASB requires that we show that as a liability.
That's
even
correct.
Though, in my opinion, it is not a liability. So
I understand.
I want to put that on the record, because I in no way, shape, or form ever want to imply that I believe the liability that is shown here is truly a liability of this county.
And many of us agree with them.
I understand that as well.
So, with that, I will ask for.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file. Please do so. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all's work, and I also want to thank the auditor and the auditor's office. We kind of take this for granted. It happens every year. We get our CAFR. We get it by, they get all the paperwork in time for them to get the award for saying that they've got it in. And let me just say that I sit on other boards where that don't happen. And so, as I said, y'all work hard, and I want to thank everybody. Everybody in the audit department, just kind of stand up, because it is a team event. Suzanne, I see Laura, Craig, all you folks stand up. We appreciate very, very much the job that you do. I know other governmental areas very close to here that pay people to help do their CAFRs. And our folks do them, and rarely, if I can't remember, maybe when the last time that there was a change made that our folks didn't realize and make before they got here. So again, thank you for the hard work that you do each year, and it is noticed. So thank y'all.
Thank you.
Members of the court, we can move to item number 2. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court designate Commissioner Johnson as our designated delegate to the 2017 NACO National Association of Counties Conference, and Commissioner Fickus as our first alternate.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, we're
And I would just state that at that conference, Commissioner Brooks will be going in as president of the association this year, and so we're very proud of him and for the job that he's done. He's been on the executive committee now for the last couple of years, and we'll be on there 2 more. So, thank you.
Thank
It will
you,
only-
Your
it will
Honor.
only seem like a lifetime, Commissioner.
Yes.
Members of the Court, we can go to item number 3. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an MOU between Tarrant County and Texas Health Arlington Memorial Hospital, which would authorize that hospital to participate in the Section 340B program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the Court, on item number 4, Ms. McMillan is here to address the Court at this time.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners.
Good morning.
Last month, the representatives from the City of Arlington and the developer of the Viridian project came before Commissioners Court to brief them on some requested changes to that TIF zone. As the Viridian development has moved forward, additional infrastructure and improvements have been identified, and the City of Arlington approved a 5-year extension to the 30-year term of the zone and also added a couple of tracks that were within the interior of that boundary and that weren't included in the original boundary. They also amended the plan to provide for these additional improvements and are asking today for the Commissioners Court to approve these amended boundaries and the amendments to the project and financing plan through the approval of an amended agreement. Under the amended agreement, the county's maximum tax increment contribution will rise from the original $79.4 million maximum contribution to just over $90 million. The hospital district's maximum tax increment contribution was not capped in the original agreement, but was estimated to be approximately $45.7 million, and this will increase to approximately $53.9 million. The county's 75% contribution rate and the hospital district's 50% contribution rate will remain the same, but it will just be for the additional 5 years or unless that cap is reached. As Mr. Maney has stated, there was a correction that was included in your packet. There was just a typo error in the first recital of both the resolution and the agreement in regards to the east-west directional information on the zone, and that has been corrected. So today we're asking Commissioners Court to approve the resolution and the amended restated participation agreement between the City of Arlington and Tarrant County, and the amended and restated participation agreement between the City of Arlington and the Tarrant County Hospital District for the City of Arlington Tax Increment Financing Zone Number 6, the Viridian TIF, providing approval of the expansion of the boundaries and extension of the term for the reinvestment zone, and modifying the project and financing plan for the zone.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
It's a great project. They're doing great things out there, Robert. Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you.
Mr. Maxwell, I'm assuming since Ms. Tidwell isn't sitting there that you're coming forward.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Our first item is the approval and release of substitution of depository collateral.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is a receive and file the Sheriff's Office exit review. I would like to mention that there is an RFP for inmate commissary services, which includes inmate banking and deposit and release services. We feel that this should help resolve most of the findings in observation 1 and 2, provided that the system and programming are properly addressed. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Yes, sir.
In reading that report, there seemed to be a number of, I guess we'll call them issues. And you did this report after the former sheriff has left office, new sheriff's in office. Was there not an opportunity to have done this and found, let's call them maybe some deficiencies prior to that, where it seems we would have a little better handle on some of these things if we had maybe looked and raised that blanket maybe 4 years ago, 8 years ago?
I will bring Ms.
Every few years?
Kim Trussell up here, who does the audit of this as the audit manager, and let her address these comments.
Check in.
Good morning.
Hey, Kim.
Good morning.
Hi. Yes, that first audit finding, which is in regards to the financial side of the program, that has been reported both in 2012 and 2015.
Okay.
So it has been identified and reported in the past.
Okay.
And then the other findings, well, the Chapter 59, yes, it was reported last year. And then as far as the last finding, that bank account that was held at Tarrant County Credit Union, we didn't know about it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay.
So how can bank accounts be opened up and we not know about it?
I don't know.
It has happened,
Have we
it's not a
asked the
new,
have we kind of talked with the credit union about the fact if there's a Tarrant County account opened up, they might already get a resolution from the Commissioners Court before they do that?
we will certainly address that as far as the credit union. There's a number
And
of
you
other.
might even talk with some of the board members on the credit union.
I'm aware of that comment, yes. I realize where you're coming from. But there are other banks that have accounts that have been opened up, not just the credit union, that elected officials, department heads, elected officials, not really department heads, have opened up in the past. And sometimes it just takes a while to uncover those because they don't really ask permission. They just tend to ask for forgiveness on those. But we do work to try to make sure that we know where all monies are deposited.
We might see if we can figure out another way to encourage elected officials to let us know when they open up bank accounts. Thank you.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I understand that elected officials can have a great deal of latitude within their area, but we still need to know from a bank account standpoint where funds are being kept because y'all are responsible for auditing and for knowing those things, and we're responsible for accounting for that stuff. Ms. Glenn?
Move to receive
How
and
about
file the
Ms. Ross?
personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, receive and file personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning and thank you.
for
Good
the-
morning, Robin.
Chris, there he is.
Good morning, Judge, court members. We have one item before you this morning for consideration. We are seeking your approval to submit an electronic grant application to the Tarrant County 911 District for fiscal year 2017 radio assistance program. The amount of that grant is $51,900. Let me get you the exact number here. The amount of is $51,950, and that money goes towards assisting the wave, the radio wave program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Vinnie?
Morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Good morning, Vinny.
Public Health's requesting your approval to send up our IGT match for the 1115 Medicaid waiver program for our DY6. The payment, with your permission, will be made for the amount of approximately $1.8 million on July 3rd, and we expect to receive back a little bit over $4 million back on July 30th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham?
Rob.
Good move, Mr. Beecham.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 4 items for your consideration this morning. The first is RFP number 217-099. This is the aerial application of pesticides to control mosquitoes. This is for the Public Health Department. We're recommending the award recommendation based on the contract terms to Clark Environmental Mosquito Management, Inc.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Appropriate since we had our first case, I guess, last week.
Right.
So, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a bid number, or a bid for bid number 2017-107. This is our annual contract for miscellaneous medical supplies and disposables for the Public Health Department. We're recommending award to the primary, secondary, and the alternate vendors listed on the communique per unit price.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is bid number 2017-113. This is the annual contract for fitness classes and personal trainer sessions for the Human Resources Department. We're recommending the award per unit price to the YMCA of Metropolitan Fort Worth.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our final item is RFQ number 2017-108. This is annual contract for commercial real estate brokerage services for various Tarrant County projects, for facilities management. We're requesting approval to negotiate with the 2 vendors listed on your communique.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any appointments today? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move for approval of the claim, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maines.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 2 items to bring to you this morning. The first is a briefing by Tcdrs and our annual update. Ms. Worthy is here to initiate that conversation.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
This is
I'll let you speak this time.
Thank you. This is our annual briefing by Tcdrs about the program and how we're doing with the program. Erica Nieto is going to do the presentation, and Amy Campbell from Tcdrs is also here, and they've brought some other individuals from staff that are going to observe and learn. So I'll let
Amy,
Erica
we
take it.
appreciate you being here. Come on down.
Good morning, Judge Whitley and Commissioners. Thank you for having me. I am Erica Nieto, and I'm very proud to be your employer services representative from Tcdrs. I'm extremely excited to say that I stand before you on our 50th anniversary. 50 years of doing retirement right is what we're celebrating this year. And of course, with a great system always comes great leadership, and we're very honored that your own Tarrant County Clerk is one of our Board of Trustees, and we're very grateful for her service and to have her on our team as a Board of Trustee member. Today, I'd like to give you a brief overview of Tcdrs, the system itself, and come to talk about your plan in particular. Tarrant County is doing very well, and there are reasons, as per strategies you've taken, as to why you're doing very well, and I'd like to address those today, and of course, open the floor for any questions. At Tcdrs, we are often asked why we are so different. In fact, this year more than ever, people can hear about pensions in the news and they form their opinions of what might be happening. Well, I'm very confident to say that for these 3 reasons here, Tcdrs is like no other. We are savings-based, so employees are saving for their retirement over the course of their career. And while that's happening, counties and districts are saving for their match accordingly. And so the money is guaranteed to be there when they're ready to retire. With that comes responsible funding over the long term. So we require all of our entities to pay a rate that will responsibly fund all of your current employees' future benefits. That is a required rate that we have had established for 50 years, and that is ensuring a responsibly funding of your plan. And finally, every entity has decision makers that provide local control and decision making for your plan alone. And that flexibility sets us apart, because who better understands your budget than the decision makers? With that said, we're proud to serve over 282,000 Texans, and we have over 735 employers. And I'm extremely excited to say that we just welcomed Ford County. So we have every county in Texas but one, and that's Motley. And they're in my region, and my goal is to bring them on. We are nearly 90% funded as a system, with a 35-year return showing 9.6%, and I'm going to address our returns in just a moment. It's interesting to note that if you have an address in Tarrant County and you live here as a retiree, this is what was paid out in 2016 for anybody living in the Tarrant County area. And what's important about these numbers is that we study with economic impact studies what happens to retirees, and we find that 96% of them stay in the areas that they served. And so when you're looking at numbers like this, you're comfortable in knowing that that money goes back into your local economy. So it's very important that we share this in presentations, and we talk about how programs like Tcdrs assist the Texas GDP. I took a snapshot of Tarrant County's plan. And if you look at the average employee, the age is about 46 years with 12 years of service. This is just average numbers when we look at behavior here at Tarrant County. And the average account balance, $63,000. When we look at a snapshot of a retiree, it's about 61 years of age that they're ready to retire after about 19 years of service. And the average benefit annually is a little over $29,000. Understand that this is showing with 12 years of service as an employee. So if you have employees with a much longer career, they're going to have a much larger balance because time is on their side. They've had time to put into their account, of which it will be matched at the time of retirement. So these are just mere averages based on numbers that we see on the screen. The benefit levels that are elected by this court every year are the following. Your employee deposit rate stands at 7%. That is the system-wide average in Tcdrs. It's actually the highest in our system. In the employer match here at Tarrant County is 2-to-1. And at retirement, you will match $2 to every one of their dollars when they choose to retire. The vesting, that is the foundation, is 8 years. And then we have 3 eligibility rules, of which they do not have to hit the trifecta. They just need one. And as soon as they hit one eligibility rule, they are welcome to retire in our system. The age of 60, we invested, the rule of 75, and the rule of 30. Now, the only of those rules that can change can be from 30 years. You can lower that to 20 if you so choose. That would be a decision of the court. But these are the elected benefit levels that currently stand for Tarrant County. Now, here's where the great news begins. I mentioned that we are responsibly funded as a system. We, our actuaries, take a snapshot of your plan every December 31st, and we study the behavior of what happened so that we know how to accurately determine what % of payroll will responsibly fund Tarrant County. We've determined that for 2018, your rate of payroll is 14.30%. Well, the good news is for the last 3 years, Tarrant County has elected to pay a higher rate, which we call an elected rate. You're sending us more than what is required. And that difference is creating a cushion and a buffer and increasing your assets here at Tarrant County to help offset future adverse years. And we've all seen them, as in 2008, we know they can happen. So that strategy is very important. Your elected rate currently stands at 18.75%, above and beyond the required, which is a wonderful strategy. And by paying this, you are investing in all of your current employees' future benefits, and you're funding down your liabilities in a closed 20-year amortization period. That's very important because we don't want debt to be passed off to future generations, so it's amortized in closed 20-year. Well, because you have a strategy in place, your amortization isn't 20 years. It's less than that because you're paying more than what's required. So your amortization is less, even better. So speaking to the strategy, your funded ratio is 86.6%. Outside rating agencies such as Fitch and S&P, rate the health of a system at 80% funded and higher, and you're nearing 87% as a permanent entity, and that speaks volumes to strategy.
And I would remind the court that when we chose to start putting extra money in, we were below, I think we were around 78 or 79%. And then, since then, we have been moving upward as a result of this.
You're absolutely correct, Judge. At 79, you've moved up in a short 3-year period to almost 87% funded. And you did also implement another strategy prior. In 2012 and 2013, you sent us lump sum contributions that were paid directly toward those liabilities, and that was another strategy that you took. So there's that history of taking those extra steps that have increased your funded ratio, lowered the liabilities, and established higher assets. Every year, it's our responsibility to present to decision makers how their rate changes. I mentioned we take a snapshot of your plan and we study it. We want you to know what occurred. Well, you'll notice where it says elected rate / lump sum, there is a negative that actually reflects a positive experience, and your strategy was actually a higher value than our investment return, which lowered your rate from 14.40 to 14.30. Very small decrease, but that strategy really helped. Now, I will say, we closed 2016 at 7.5%. We are using a small portion of our reserves to pass on so that you will have an 8% return. All of our employers will. But in 2015, we had a flat year, and we recognize gains and losses over 5-year periods. So we still have to recognize that 2015 loss for a few more years, and that's why you see that investment return not be as favorable. We do have gains in the pipeline and losses over 5-year ongoing periods. And our goal is that we have a gain this year to outweigh that loss in the pipeline. But your strategy was very healthy. So in some cases, other employers saw an increase, you saw a slight decrease. I like to provide this chart just because as decision makers, your availability is to look at options. And this just shows if you were to increase or decrease your employee deposit rate or your match, it gives you an idea of how you can experience an immediate cost savings or the cost that you would incur if you chose to increase benefits for 2018. This just gives you an example of the leeway you have as decision makers. Decisions aren't due until December 15th, so you have the rest of the year to discuss and decide. Call us, request resources, invite me back, etc., to make sure we provide you with the data that you need. I mentioned that I would address investments. I'd like to begin by saying that we receive no funding from the state of Texas. We are not funded or tied to the budget of the Texas in any way. How we are funded is that investments drive our success. For every benefit dollar paid, about 77 cents comes from our investment earnings, which is why they are diligently managed internally and externally. Our employers, as yourselves, fund about 13 cents of every benefit dollar paid. And employees fund about 10 cents to every benefit dollar paid, to give you a general idea, an estimated value of how we are funded. I have on the screen our 35-year history of investment returns, and we've either met or exceeded our benchmarks across all periods. We did close the year at 16 at 7.5, using a small portion of our reserves. You can expect that we'll be passing on 8% to you. Our long-term goal is 8%. We do not chase annual returns. We know that in any given year we might be plus or minus. In fact, we have a risk tolerance, plus or minus 12 above our 8% goal. And over the long term, we have stayed within that risk tolerance and met our goal, except for the Great Recession of 2008 and the subsequent recovery of 2009. As decision makers, we will provide you data beginning in April, continuing on through May and June. To date, everything has been provided to you and your auditor's office, GASB reports, everything they may need to move forward. All of the rates were released back in April, and so at this time, I'd just like to remind that the court has until December to discuss and request data and make any changes to the plan. You have choices to keep your elected rate of 18.75 or change it if you so choose. You have the election of changing benefits in any way. I will say, though, that historically, your decision and strategy has been helpful in that I have provided you in your packets a chart and it's in a document entitled Plan Customizer for Plan Year 2018. For your resources, if you turn to page 3, there is a chart that says plan rate projection. I printed it because I find it fascinating to see the difference in your strategy versus a non-strategy. I created for you a plan without the elected rate, one that would simply just pay what is required. And there is a 10-year difference. You are funding your plan 10 years faster, decreasing it to rates as low as 6.94%, almost half of what you're paying now because of the strategy. If you were to remove the elected rate, then that would change, and we're looking closer to 2030, an additional 10 years where the rate would decrease to about 6%. So this is really just to show you visually the impact of strategy.
Let me be sure I'm understanding what these two columns. The current column is obviously what we have paid last year, and then the 14.3. You're
Correct.
saying under the proposed plan, is that what you would foresee our rate being as we move forward?
No, actually, Judge, the proposed plan is just for theoretical purpose. I just removed your elected rate, and I just put that you would pay what's required. And the proposed is just a longer time it would take you to fund those liabilities. The current plan is what currently stands. And I did this to show that your strategy has been so helpful that you're taking off about 10 years of that amortization, of that duration to pay down your rate. So the proposed certainly shouldn't happen. It's just an idea if you were to drop that elected rate.
Okay. Debbie, what are you looking at? Are you looking at, we're currently at 18.75, and you're looking at keeping that at that level?
Correct.
Now, as I recall, last year, we also had the discussion about when we elected our retiree adjustment. That reduced to some extent the amount that we were
Correct.
putting into to pay down quicker. So as we look at that this year, it would, I think, if we can through our budget process, I think there's a couple things. One, we're going to hopefully be able to lower the tax rate again. Two, I would hope that we could, if we're going to give something for the retirees, depending on where inflation and everything is, that we work that in addition to the extra amount that we were giving. And maybe try to work that down even quicker.
To a limited extent, not a
To a
total,
limit.
total extent. We did that somewhat for the current fiscal year because we were using a rate that was a bit lower than the 1875. So we did give it another push upward.
Okay, thank you.
And as I close my presentation, I'd just like to remind you that I do serve as your employer services representative. This is my region. I'm very proud to provide you with information and data and be a resource for you as you make decisions. I look forward to seeing you at conferences. I had the pleasure of visiting with Judge Whitley recently, and I personally invite you to our conference this July 26th in Austin. And it is a 50-year celebration, also a legislative year, and we hope it to be as great as they have been in the past. We do have 3 Tarrant County guests that are going to be joining us that we're very happy to have and extend an invitation to this court as well. So at this time, I'm happy to open it up to questions or provide any additional data you might be interested in.
Do y'all do quarterly looks at what your return is? I mean, how are we doing this year?
I thought you might ask, Judge, and so I checked, and as of June 16th, we're at 6.12%.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Good to see y'all. Amy, thank you for being here.
They are observing. They're a year in with us at TCD, and they said, we really want to see what you do. And so I said, if you want to see what we do and you want to go to a great county, come to Tarrant County. So they came to see you, and I appreciate that you've invited them in your hospitality.
Thank y'all for being here.
So just in closing, we'll be back in a few months to talk to you and have you make the decisions. And obviously, we've had conversations with budget so that they can include. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the court, we'd like to also have a 5-minute discussion or so as it relates to the legislative issues. Mr. Mendez is here to address the court.
Morning, Your Honor, Court, Mr. Members of the Court. I have 4 points to make very, very briefly, just kind of finishing up the regular session and looking forward to the special session. House Bill 4104 that we encouraged the governor to sign was signed. It's this bill that gave Commissioners Court specific authority over the budgetary policy regarding court personnel. We're very happy to see that being signed. House Bill 337 by Collier relating to the suspension of services to inmates as opposed to termination. That was allowed to become law without his signature, but that goes into effect on September 1st. We will be bringing a more detailed briefing on that legislation next week for the court to consider. The governor, second point is the governor issued approximately 51 vetoes, 44 if you exclude the line items in the budget and the bills that were duplicate bills. There really wasn't anything of particular interest to Tarrant County in all those vetoes, except for my third point, which is the veto of the line item in the budget relating to our participation in the LIRAP program. This could require some action by the court prior to September 1 when the new budget goes into effect, because as a result of that veto, any fees that we continue to collect for vehicle inspections will, after that point, just sit in the state's account, and they cannot be appropriated. We have a meeting set up next week with the Council of Governments. They have some ideas about ways to extend the program. You just today passed an extension of the contract with the Council of Governments for current unexpended funds, but we're going to see what the Council of Governments has to say about what they would recommend for the region, and we'll bring back in a briefing session to the court some alternatives and some recommendations going forward. Finally, this governor still has not issued a proclamation for the special session, so any pre-filing of legislation for the special session can't occur until he does that. All he's got on record right now is just an announcement. And all we know about that is that it will definitely be related to the sunset provision, and then he's got 19 other issues that potentially could go on the call. That's all I've got. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I have a public participation from Laura Jenkins. You know the routine?
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Ms. Jenkins.
My name is Laura Jenkins, 8101 Canyon Oak Drive, North Richland Hills, Texas. And today I'm here for my son. Many of you already know the story. But if you want to know more, go to justiceforroyjr.com. Justice, the number 4, royjr.com. In January 2014, I began walking in my son's shoes. I've been protesting for almost 13 years now. No, almost 3 years. We've been in jail for, I'd say we, I mean our family has been in jail since August of 2005 for the intoxication manslaughter and the 2004 death of Grapevine police officer Darren Metlin. And I have nothing but remorse and heart for that family and what I've seen over the years happen to that family. I'll talk about that down the road, but has been awful. But anyway, our son had an epileptic seizure and causing a horrific accident, but he was convicted, and he will be home though on July 5th. But I was asked by my husband, he said, "So what are you going to do now?" And I said, "Well, this is kind of my life now. You just don't walk away because he comes home." And I really appreciate the fact that the Sharon Wilson's Conviction Integrity Unit is looking at his case. And within 90 to 180 days from April 18th, so we're tracking it till July 18th will be 90 days. So from 90 to 180 days, we're looking to hopefully have something really positive to say about that, to see about what's happening. But I was concerned about her note saying that preliminary intake, and we just want to be sure and encourage that. The preliminary intake is done with integrity and responsibility. And I think my 3 minutes are up, but I'll be back to tell you more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. There being no further business, we will recess our open meeting, proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. Having returned from our closed session, there being no business to address at this time, we are adjourned. Go Aggies, go Horned Frogs, go Tigers, and it looks like at least one of them's going to go home today.